Happy Chick-fil-A Appreciation Day, everyone! So I'd like to reflect upon the results of last year when I posted a video entitled 5 Reasons Why Homosexuality is Bad. Despite the relatively low amount of views it got, there was a lot of feedback, which means it's remained a high-interest topic. In the video, I introduced myself as a friend of homosexuals, not a hater, and then I went on to list the practical reasons why homosexuality is destructive to humans. This may sound like a paradox to some of you who haven't yet watched the video, so please, if you haven't already, check it out. Anyway, the feedback was mixed, as I expected it would be. Most of it was constructive, as I'd asked, but there was a good bit of irrational flaming as well. Mind you, I try to be tolerant. I have an open comment section. If you disagree with me, I respect your right to say so, and I will not censor you. But I do not tolerate abuse. If anyone deliberately misrepresents my argument so they can hassle me, if anyone accuses me of lying about my non-malice of homosexuals, if anyone unjustly calls me a homophobe, which means I have an irrational fear of homosexuals, I block that person. I take this issue far too seriously to put up with cheap potshots at my credibility. Same goes for the people who put up entire walls of comments as if to shout me down. If you want to tell me that I'm wrong, at least be reasonable about it. On to the constructive feedback. I noticed a lot of repetitive material, so I'd like to list the popular answers here to give everyone an idea of how homosexual activists argue. My first point was that homosexuality was exceptionally disease-ridden and that it isn't loving to endorse a condition that so brutally reduces one's life expectancy. One opponent responded that my data was skewed since I was using Paul Cameron's research and his methods sucked. While it's true that one of my sources had Cameron as a co-author, it was a different paper than what she'd cited. Quick lesson, guys. If you don't want to make strawman arguments, avoid the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. Furthermore, Cameron may have a flair for exaggeration in his statements, but his actual findings were still foreboding. He looked into a bunch of gay obituaries to get an average on what age they die, and found them alarmingly young. The Center for Disease Control would later report that gay people are more severely affected by HIV than any other group in the US. When neutral sources like the CDC are saying similar things to the biased, bigoted, homo-intolerant ones, that should give you pause. Another opponent brushed the data aside and argued that if homosexuals took proper precautions, everything would be fine. If they were allowed to marry and stayed faithful to one partner and got themselves tested and used lubricants and condoms, there would be no argument about disease. To an extent, this guy's right. Take everything that heterosexuals do, apply said precautions to homosexuals, and the STD count goes down. This argument has two weaknesses. It's a poor hypothetical about the future, and it implies a perfect world. I say, if you want to know the future, observe the past. If the implementation of civil unions didn't change anything, and it didn't, what will marriage do aside from bestowing additional legal rights? And we don't live in a perfect world. People constantly disregard protection. Yet according to the data and common knowledge, homosexuals are hit the hardest. Still another opponent said that homosexuals have a higher death rate because everybody else bullies them into suicide, and if we just accept them, it wouldn't be so bad. This is a guilt by association fallacy. Bullies who victimize people for being different are not in the same category as friends and family who have legitimate concerns about the problems that come with homosexuality. Overgeneralizing like this is militant to a fault, because it rouses a me against the world outlook on life, and anyone who does not embrace homosexuality is turned into an enemy. Friends and family may not always handle their situation gracefully, but if they've taken the time to know or raise someone, they mean well. Roping them together with actual bullies is one of the most hideously immoral decisions anyone can make. My second point in the video was that homosexuality's addictiveness was lethal. Anyone who disregarded the first point missed the significance of this second one. I got answers like, love is addicting, smiling is addictive, all of which sidestepped the fact that addictions have adverse consequences. As I said, people will make enemies of their friends and family before they admit their homosexuality is bad. By the way, I've been criticized for treating homosexuality as though it's a choice, when in fact I don't consider it a conscious one. Rather, I hold that it is a mental disorder, and the choice is only in fighting it or giving in to it. And yes, I realize that the APA currently doesn't call it a disorder, even though it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck. If you want to know how I'm so certain, please read The Trojan Couch, a research article by Jeffrey Satinover, PhD. My third argument was that homosexuality attacked the institution of marriage by attempting to redefine it. I held that the principle of marriage was procreation, and anything else would shift the emphasis from family to sexual decadence. The counter-arguments almost exclusively consisted of this. Homosexual couples have been proven to be just as capable parents as heterosexual ones. I could get into why that's incorrect, but I'll just make do with the fact that it sidesteps my point. Procreation has nothing if not marriage. Saying that homosexuals would make good foster parents is not sufficient to change the foundational core of marriage. Nor, for that matter, is the argument that there are millions of gay couples who just really want to be married. Millions of polygamists really want their marriages recognized, and so do millions of close relatives. The difference is, they haven't gotten the publicity yet. The homosexual torch is still the one burning brightest right now. In my fourth argument, I reasoned that men and women need each other to survive, and homosexuality necessarily made the statement that they didn't. Furthermore, it was sexist, because while heterosexuals appreciate the features of their own sex and the opposites, homosexuals are only into their own sex. In short, it is demeaning to suggest that an entire sex is unwanted and replaceable. In response, one opponent drew a parallel, saying that two black people marrying is a symbolic rejection of all interracial marriage. He told me that this was basically my statement, as if I were saying that homosexuals simply get together to spite all non-homosexuals. Obviously, it's not like that. I'm glad that most homosexuals aren't actively sexist, like the feminazi lesbians of the 70s. It's the one feature of homosexuality that they do somewhat fight, being politically incorrect and all. Another opponent said that heterosexuals were just as sexist for refusing to have intercourse with people of their own sex. That's a pretty stupid argument. You don't need to bang someone to appreciate the intrinsic differences unique to each sex. You're only sexist when you think that one sex is decidedly better than the other. If you honestly believe that you can replace the whole role of the other sex, that qualifies. A third opponent generalized and said that everyone's sexist, get over it. Maybe that's true, maybe it isn't. What's certain is that in homosexuality, it comes with the package. A lot of people apparently got confused by my fifth argument. I said that the male and female bodies were powerful evidence of an intelligent creator because of our purposeful design. Therefore, if we defied the creator's intended design with something like homosexuality, we denied absolute authority. Without absolute authority, all morality is relative and absolutely nothing has meaning. Not surprisingly, most of my opponents were atheists, so they didn't grasp the significance of this. I'll try to make it relevant. If there is no ultimate authority, nobody can condemn me as an insensitive, intolerant, prejudiced, homophobic bigot for opposing homosexuality. These qualities are not wrong because there is no right or wrong. We're not created, so we have no true function, just the ones we invent. Those feelings I'm hurting? Chemical reactions in a brain that will be dead in less than 100 years, nothing more. The logic factor? A human construct that dies with our finite race. So why should you care what I have to say? Why should I care what you have to say? The things that matter to us are an illusion, worthless in perspective of this enormous universe. Anyway, I suspect my opponents don't often think about the depressing implications of a pointless existence, as they completely ignore their own rules in their responses. One lady said that I was using religion and started quoting Leviticus at me. That was plenty irrelevant to my point in reality, let alone in a godless universe where her words would have been a waste of effort no matter what. Someone else said, for my point to count, I'd need to prove that there really was a creator. That's simple enough. If you even suspect that there might be a creator, the fact that heterosexuality brings about life and homosexuality results in death is proof enough of whose side he's on. If you're certain there isn't a creator, you won't find any purpose for your life arguing about it with me. You're a sham and I'm a sham, so don't even pretend like this matters. The relevant stuff. I had a couple other comments that should be mentioned for their frequency. Animals. Some are homosexual, so it must be natural. People, please, don't look to the animal kingdom to help your case. Animals rape, kidnap, and cannibalize too. And let's not forget that we see genetic mutations in nature. Do a cow's horns serve their intended function when they curve backwards and push back into the animal's skull? No. Paradoxical though this may sound, not everything in nature is natural. And as for this unnatural computer you guys keep reminding me that I'm using, it is a product of humanity's creativity. It's a beehive. We were created to create. We were not created to commit self-destructive acts. To those of you who still insist that you can't see the problem with men having sex with men and women having sex with other women, who say that if I just give you the resources to back up my claims you'll suddenly believe me, it won't happen. If you can still argue after hearing what the Center for Disease Control had to say, you aren't open to reason. The links in the description below are not for you, but for the people who are still choosing sides in this matter. These resources will reveal everything that is never mentioned in public about homosexuality. Do not conform. Be informed instead. Constructive replies are welcome. Thanks for stopping by.